everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the Developmentally Speaking brand.
Today, my guest is former European and World Tag Team Champion Dennis Knight. Dennis, how's it going?
It's going great, and thank you for that, because all these ones I do is usually with Henry, and you're the first person who has announced me as European title. And I worked really hard to get that. I mean, I asked Shane for it, and he handed it to me, so very difficult.
There you go.
That was totally, you know what, you do whatever we say, here you go, here's a little something. But don't worry, you'll never win whenever you're fighting for it.
So what made you want to get into professional wrestling?
Well, honestly, my earliest memories are my parents got divorced when I was like 5, and we went to live with our grandparents. My grandfather, former Marine, butcher, just a 300-pound, awesome dude. Oh my God, I'm on 15%. I am so sorry, but we can make that. And he took us to the Sportatorium in Florida, and my earliest memories are standing around the ring. I have pictures with my mentor, Steve Kern, with the Briscoes, with Dusty, Sweet Brown Sugar, all that shit. It was awesome. And I remember one day I was 12 years old, and we went to the St. Pete Bayfront Center, and that was the night that that Dusty beat Harley for the world title. And funny story there, my older brother, who has every concert ticket, everything, he keeps all my shit. We got a program from that night, Dusty and Harley world title main event at the top, and they both blood and everything. And after the show, me and my brother, little 12, 13-year-old kids, climbed, scurried under the chairs after everybody left, and we took the program and we held it in the blood that was on the floor from Harley and Dusty. And we still got that, yeah. It's always, oh my God. My brother, like I said, keeps everything. He has all of our Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Wrestling Magazine, everything from the 70s. And being that guy, I lose everything. He's got everything. And I would go, back in the day, when we were there or somebody was coming, he would here and hand me something. So, I've got from that show, the Wrestler magazine with Dusty and Harley on the cover and Dusty bleeding. And since they were, very good friends of mine, Dusty being the one who hired me first in Florida Championship Wrestling and then in WCW. And he loved Mark so much because Mark was working a program with Eric Watson making him look good that he put us together. So I got that Wrestler magazine with Dusty and Harley signed. I've got Flair signed and oh my God, his wrestling. He literally, I'm going to that Baltimore thing tomorrow, and he literally just dropped off at my house. I've gotten him all the Pop Funkos. He's a Pop Funko maniac. And I've got Flair, Kane, Undertaker, everybody. And he dropped off a Rob Van Dam. Rob, who actually, when he first started and moved down from Michigan to Florida, lived with me and my family. And that's where my stepdad gave him the Rob Van Dam name. My stepdad, Ron Slanker, was a wrestler in the million years ago. And, so I was like, oh, really? We don't have one of these yet. So, so I got the Rob Van Dam pop to get him to sign it.
That's pretty cool.
Unfortunately, Rikishi doesn't have one, so I can't get him to sign anything yet. Who do I have? Godfather doesn't have one either. I've got Mark, and as far as BSK goes, I've got Mark and Paul Bearer. Wow. I think that's it. God, I would love to have, unfortunately it wasn't at the time, but a Yokozuna signed one. Oh my God. That would be great. And proof of time travel. So
They've been releasing
Awesome.
a lot of Yoko stuff over the more now than ever before.
He's the best. We did 2 years ago when Taker, what was it? I think it was Taker's last, or the Summer or Survivor Series when it
Hmm.
was his 30-year anniversary when he retired. That's how you know you've made it. Not that when you can get the company to do anything you want, but when you can get Vince McMahon to pay to bring in Godfather Rikishi, Savio, me, and Henry
Hmm.
just to hang out and party with you. Yeah, and I got shit signed there too. But yeah, I mean that was a Vince one would be good. Do they have a Vince pop?
I don't. I think they. I know they just made a Paul Heyman one. I wonder if I don't know if they have events
Oh,
one.
that would be Kyle there.
Mm.
I love Paul. We went to WrestleMania, and I'll be honest with you, we went to WrestleMania Taker's Hall of Fame thing last year. I think was it
Mhm.
last year?
Mhm.
He brought us all in, and it was like I hadn't seen Paul since our WCW days, so 92, 93. And I've been fortunate that everybody likes me and everybody treats me nice and everything. And it was so cool during that time when Paul Heyman is like doing Roman shit the whole time. Every time he walked by me in the back, he would like elbow me or push me. And I retired in 2003 and became a chef,
Mhm.
and literally hadn't been in a ring or around anything for like 20 years. And then to come back and have Drew McIntyre and all these people giving me their number to like, give them ideas and shit.
Mhm.
It makes you feel cool, especially since I left. And I saw Cena. I went to the show New Year's Eve in Tampa, and I saw Cena, and I haven't seen him since in 2003. I loved WWE in I think '02,
Mhm.
and then I did Independence for like a year, and then I said, and I had started in like this crazy fine dining restaurant.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah, this is where I'm going. So I called Vince and said, can I have my last match? Blah, blah, blah. And he was like, of course, we'll be in Tampa whenever. And it was my friend, MVP, who was, I knew from Puerto Rico and Florida.
Mhm.
It was his tryout match.
Oh.
And so I got to do that. And all my, the big shot chef and Wolfgang Puck went to my last match. I mean, I've cooked for Wolfgang and Emerald and Bobby Flay and that. So they went to the match, and then afterwards they were like, "Oh, they got a box. They were like, you got to come out with us and party." I'm like, "I would love to, but I have to go open your restaurant at 6 o'clock in the morning." So they all show up hungover and drunk at like 9, and the guy they were watching was, been there since 6 o'clock, setting everything up. It was kind of a very cute dichotomy of my situation.
Like
But
it's been 20 years, a little over since you left WWE, and you're still a household name.
2003,
You're s-
literally 20. I try. The a lot of the things I get the naked Mideon a lot. I mean, I go into my Walmart and people there know me, and whenever I'm with somebody in my family and I get recognized, still they really like it, especially my little niece and all that. But I've been fortunate. I mean, I've worked. Well, I started in 1989, and my wrestling school, the only people you would remember that made it was me, Dustin, and Mike Awesome.
Mhm.
And I mean, I literally went there to Japan for the first iteration of FMW
Mhm.
because Tarzan and Goto came to Florida as Ho Chi Minh because Steve Kern's dad was a POW in the Vietnam War.
Mhm.
So they bring the Japanese guy in to be the Vietnamese guy, and I worked with him a lot as way out of wrestling school. He beat the shit out of me, and I was like, "Thank you," and all this. And one day we had a match somewhere, and I came back and I had all these bruises across my forehead where he would like slam my head into the stairs,
Mhm.
and I would just take it head first. And he was like, "Oh my God, that's great!" And then he called me a month later, and I went as a 19-year-old kid. I've been wrestling less than a year. I did a 4-week tour. I did 2 weeks. It was only me, and then the Japanese crew, Goto, Onita, Chrisu. I don't remember if anyone else was big time there. But He brought me there, and we did 2 weeks in Korea. All right, I'm 19. I've been wrestling less than a year. So we do the show in Korea, and the main event is Onita versus whoever their Korean guy is. So it's like their Hulk Hogan's.
Mm-hmm.
And then the semi-main event was their Macho Man, I guess you could say, against this 19-year-old kid with less than a year experience. But I was 6'7", 300 pounds, you know, and they're billing me as like Dick Murdoch's relative.
Mm-hmm.
So we went, and the main show the last night was in the Olympic Arena in Seoul, and it was in front of like 75,000 people. And I'm the semi-main event, less than a year working, and double juice and all over. They said, because, you know, they said like half the country was watching it and everything. And I'm like, that's so cool. And then I'll let you in on some dirty secrets here. That night, as a 19-year-old nobody with no Americans with me, it was just me and Japanese and Korean guys. But Mr. Kim, who ran it, who was with the mafia, he goes, "Oh, I'm taking you guys to a nightclub." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's cool, nightclub." So we get to this nightclub, and it's like from a fucking like Black Rain, Michael Douglas movie. The roof is like 50 feet high, and there's this giant dance floor. In the middle of it, there's this table that has like 10 and 10 and then 2 at the front. And it was all the Japanese guys and Korean guys, and it was me and their Hulk Hogan on the ends. I'm 19. In the middle of this giant nightclub, they have all this shit, and every plate had a full bottle of Crown Royal on it. I'm like, holy shit, this is great. Do that. Go back to my room. I'm getting undressed, and my brother told me to call him because he always wanted a international call. This is 90, 89. And so I call him, and then I hang up, and I get a knock on the door, and there's these 2 girls. They said, "Mr. Kim told us to come up and see if you needed anything." I'm like, "Oh my God, this is the greatest job ever." So yeah. So then I did that, and then I went to WCW, did a dark tryout for Dusty, who hired me in in Florida Championship.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then that's when me and Henry got hooked up, and then we stayed together until he broke his neck, pussy. And then you know, blah blah blah.
So you were
I'm
in
sorry for talking over.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. This is about you. So you were in the time you were in
Hey,
WB.
it's about us.
I'll take it.
There you go.
It was from when you started in WWE, and then the Attitude Era, and then like it was morphing into the Ruthless Aggression. Like you were there for big changes. It felt like. Could you see how what direction the company was going?
No, because me and Dustin and Brad Armstrong, or Brian Armstrong, Road Dogg, were always the 20-somethings surrounded by Steamboat and Flair and Arn, you know, all the old guys. So they kind of took us under their wing. And, you know, even in 2003, when I stopped, my last match was within like Johnny Cena had just started there, and he was there in my last match, and I remember it was like, "Oh, put your boots on the last time," and all this, and then he becomes this giant star. And then I went to the last SmackDown of the year in Tampa when they had it here, when John came back and wrestled with Kevin. And I mean, at this point he's like Rocky. He's one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. And literally, I'm walking by as they have him signing shit, and he gets up and just talks to me and puts me over and, you know, thanks me for everything. I'm like, God damn, that's not too fucking bad, you know?
No. Like I said, you're still a
Yeah.
household name 20 years later. And it's got to be, you know, these conventions you guys are a big hit at when you come in.
Yes. The BSK helps a lot, too. Like, I went to Undertaker's one-man show in Vegas, and I had, like, Tracy Murray, the NBA guy, and D'Lo, and a couple other people. Me and Godfather got asked to go there, and, you know, we were in that, and I was like, I got all these people, like, 23 years after I retired, still, you know. I like going to these things, one, because I get to hang out with my best friend, Mark Canterbury, and it's not too bad to feel like a big shot every once in a while, you know.
Where'd your love for cooking come from?
My grandparents had a restaurant before I was even born. My grandfather then had a butcher shop. My grandmother was a dietitian of a hospital. It's always been in my family. And right when I left WWE, before I started, like around '02, when I was just doing little bits, I literally, there was no really internet or anything, so I would just watch Great Chefs of Europe and that shit before Food Network, and then just like every day I would try to make what I saw, and then Food Network, and then when I decided to stop, I walked into the best restaurant in town and said, I'd like to talk to the chef, and they're like, what for application? I was like, that'd be cool, but my application will say like 87, 88, like McDonald's and this, but, and then 20 years blank. But I came back the next day, and it was in Cafe Pont, Chris Pont, who is still my Steve Kern of food, if you will, my Yoda, my coach. He was an instructor of Le Cordon Bleu in Paris and took me under his wing, and I've been so fortunate in both of my lives. And now 20, almost 20 years as a wrestler, 23 as a cook. Now it's time to go into something else. Every 20 years, I got to change my life.
So are you cooking?
And I had to go.
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, this might answer what you were saying. About 6 months ago, I had an accident at work where a giant thing fell on my foot, and they had to cut all my toes off. So, and I've been doing it, and cooking at fine dining, dude, it's brutal, and it's a long day. And I'm like, I've done it long enough, and I don't have to do anything. So I just kind of retired recently, although they want me to come back and do like 2 nights of sushi, just, and I get in trouble if I don't have something to do. So,
so what made you want to start doing conventions?
Henry.
Yeah.
Henry does them, and anything, literally anything for that guy. I would literally die for that human being. And he was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. So I leave that up to him. We don't make a shitload compared to like Godfather and Rikishi, but it's cool because I get a couple bucks to go and spend a weekend partying with my best friend,
You can't ask for anything better than that.
Don't look at this Monster Energy drink that I'm drinking.
Are you active online? Can people reach out to you?
I don't like Facebook. I have a thing, but I literally am never on that or check it or anything. But I have an Instagram that I like because it's not like I'm not on Twitter or anything because it's all like mean.
Yeah. I
like Instagram because it can just be nice things. I mean, mine is mostly food, movies, and wrestling, So it's and I get shit for this from Godfather and Rikishi all the time. Because they're like Rikishi, Godfather, Henry Godwin, Undertaker. And mine is Dennis Knight, 1313, Real MF Mideon. I just made it. And they're like, why do you do that? I'm like, well, if they want me, they'll find me. It's kind of like a little game. So.
If there is any advice you could give to anybody getting into professional wrestling, what would it
be? Number one, if you have any kind of career, you're going to hurt for the rest of your life. Depending on, accidents and shit, it might not be too bad. I've been very lucky. And watch old shit, know your history. And if you're very, very first starting, work. I was so fortunate. I started in Florida Championship Wrestling with Steve Kern and Dusty, and right away 5 days on the road. Went to Memphis, 5-6 days on the road. Went to World Class, 5-6 days on the road. Work as much as you possibly can. I go there now. I have kind of a thing with and for my little buddy, Liv Morgan. We talk a lot, and I give her, shit and everything. And it's such a different world. Like, I went to that show on New Year's Eve, and they had the dark match. It was a 6-man. And I saw him, literally, I was with Holly, who is probably the closest thing to an angel on this earth. She's the best person ever. And she was their agent, and, Liv was asking me shit, and I sat there and watched them go over this 8-minute 6-man for half the day. And then they did it, and she was like, came out right after a gorilla, and she's like, what'd you think? I said, No fuck ups. Everything was good, but it looks like everybody was trying to remember what they were doing. And this wouldn't be advice because that's how it is now. Everything is so planned out. But you've got to know what happens when something goes wrong. If your opponent gets knocked out and you have to carry him, or if you're in a match in a town where they're cheering for the heel and not the babyface. That was it. My first 8 years, we would go to the show. The bad guys were in one locker room, the good guys were in the other. The referee would go from one side to the other and say, "Hey, you two are working." And the first time we would see each other would be in the ring. They would give us the finish, and then we would just call it all there. That's the thing. Learn, and if you watch the old shit, you can do that. Learn what to do if something happens. Because I've seen it happen lately, and they're lost. You know what I mean?
I couldn't agree more. Well,
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for all you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do, sir. It was a pleasure watching you growing up. I feel like Mideon was underrated. The ministry was underrated. It's not as
I'll
talked
be
about
honest,
as
at
it
that
should be.
point, yeah. At that point, when I started Midian, I was on 15 years of literally 5 to 6 days a week. I was so burnt out and beat up and everything. And, I came up with a lot of the ministry stuff. But it was like we were at that point, we were so zombies on the road that it wasn't like we just let Bruce and Ed and all them do whatever they wanted to our stories. And as soon as the corporation joined the ministry, it was over. As soon as the Undertaker and us weirdos walk out down the fucking ramp with all the lights on, it's over. It's fucking stupid. Yeah.
I agree.
But anyway.
Well, I just want to thank you for your time today. I'm doing a
Thank
couple of
you, buddy.
conventions, so I'll see you at one of these conventions sooner or later.
Please come up to me and remind me of your name. I have been hit in the head a lot, and I do a lot of drugs, and I drink a lot of Monster. Just kidding, I don't drink.
I will do that, sir. And thank you again for everything. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, buddy. You got my number now, so if you ever need me.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Bye.